Hey, welcome to another episode of the Boxing Lockdown powered by SA Boxing Talk. I'm with the three gentlemen, four including myself. Cyril, good evening. Hayden, good evening. And Devin, good evening. We're talking about a fight that possibly is going to happen, and it has a lot of market value. Andy Ruiz, the former, I would say undisputed, but I would say belt holder of the heavyweight division, is talking about a fight with Dillian Whyte. There's been a lot of banter over Twitter and social media and so forth. Dev, good evening. Let me start with you. We'll talk about your black eye later. Who would you pick in that fight and why?
It's a tough one because you don't know which version of each guy is going to rock up. We've seen Dillian Whyte not really train and kind of go into cruise control. We've seen Andy Ruiz not train and go into cruise control. Both rocking up fit, firing, and with a proper training camp. Oh, I like my boy Dillian Whyte. I always have had an affinity for him. I think he takes a good shot. His body work is the best in the heavyweight division, in my opinion. He's tough. He's in there for 12 rounds, and I think he can exhaust Ruiz over 12 rounds.
Hayden, let's just talk about the politics of him being the WBC interim champion. Now, he's been mandatory. Like, for me, when I think of Whyte, I don't think of him as a WBC interim champion. I think of him as a number one contender for Tyson Fury's title in the BC version. But now he's got an interim championship, and obviously we need to respect that, which means that Ruiz possibly will challenge for the WBC interim world championship. But what does this fight actually mean? What does it actually mean for both fighters?
Yeah, it's highly unfair that obviously Dillian Whyte had to wait so long in the WBC. I mean, it's been the Deontay Wilder rumors when Wilder was back at the WBC champion. Then they had to wait for the rematch because there's rematch clauses. There's just so much that's not in his control. And he has a promoter, Eddie Hearn, that can't even do anything. And if anyone's going to move anything, it's that man. So I think that, and yourself in Africa, isn't it, Colin?
Diva, Brian, thanks for that.
And so I think it's very unfair, but I also think it's unfair that the whole stigma attached to Dillian Whyte is the guy that Anthony Joshua beat. And I think that the fact that he hasn't been given these opportunities is making it even worse because he has beat other legitimate guys, just that he hasn't been recognized on that level because he hasn't got the chance to fight Deontay, Tyson Fury. I mean, he's fighting like Derek Chisora and Joseph Parker. I mean, those are the sort of guys that he's been lined up with. I mean, now who's going to win between him and Andrew Ruiz Jr.? That's a good fight, as Deb says. Two guys are going to put on a show, I feel. But I don't think, and this is just my opinion coming in here, I think that Dillian Whyte has a side edge in this fight because I feel he's more fresh. Andrew Ruiz is enjoying his limelight, and I don't know if it's getting the better of him. We saw he was very flat in the second fight against Joshua.
Yeah, it's a situation, Cyril, where he wins the heavyweight championship of the world and he becomes a celebrity, and all of a sudden he actually forgot that he was a fighter, and that possibly led to him losing his championships. But here's the question I want to ask you, Cyril, is that the significance of a win between these guys, whoever wins this fight, what does it mean for them? Because my opinion would be, well, whoever wins, let's just say the BC interim championships on the line, whoever wins that has stake to either claim to fight Fury, or if Ruiz wins, obviously he would want that third rubber match with Anthony Joshua. What does this mean for either fighter?
I think a win for either fighter should be a title shot. And you're right. You're right saying Dillian Whyte wins. He should fight Tyson Fury for that BC belt, and Andy Ruiz winning would, either BC belt or a third match against Anthony Joshua. I think it lines up all nicely. And I think within the next 2 years, now I'm speaking about all the top contenders in the heavyweight championship. I think we are going to see an undisputed heavyweight champion in sometime in the next 2 years. I see it coming, which is great for boxing.
Dev, you wanted to add a point in?
If I was Dillian Whyte and you've seen, what seems to be a less than cordial relationship with Eddie Hearn, I don't feel that Hearn is 100% on board with punting Dillian Whyte. He's been in that mandatory position either for 2, possibly 3 years, floating around there. And he's probably made more money off step-aside fees in his career than he has actually fighting in the ring. So at what point does he decide to like throw his hands up in the air, break a contract, get away from Hearn? Because it's clear that Hearn seems to be banging for Joshua more than anybody else in that entire stable. And go, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to go to Bob Arum and see what he can do for me. What, like, as a fighter under contract, you know, how messy could this potentially be if a big fight doesn't happen for him?
Just a useless bit of information. In '96, when Tyson won the BC title and he wanted to unify with Bruce Selden for the WBA version, there was a big court case with Lennox Lewis because he was mandatory. The step-aside fee was $4 million at the time. Frank Bruno fought Mike Tyson defending his title for $4 million. Anyway, let's move along. Here's an interesting question I want to throw to you, Hayden. It's a bit of a curveball, but I mean, for all of us, whoever wins that fight is the WBC interim champion, okay? Then that winner wants to fight Joshua, but for his four, is the IBF, the WBA, the IBO, and have I left one out? Hold on, WBA, WBO, IBF, and IBO. Sorry, 4 belts. And then the WBC interim belt is on the line. How does that figure for Tyson Fury?
Sure. You're saying
because that's a tough question. I mean, I'm just thinking about it now. Dev, Cyril, it's a really hard question, right?
Well, are you saying basically Tyson Fury might become an avoided champion? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I'm saying, you know, the winner of the WBC interim championship wants to fight Anthony Joshua with all the belts. What happens to that belt? I mean, it's a good question.
Well, it's not like Dillian White hasn't held it for 3 years. I mean, so it's just...
Well, he hasn't held the interim title for 3 years. He's been mandatory for a long time. Yeah, let's move along because that's a tough question to answer. Who wins? Let's just say Andy Ruiz beats White. Who wins between Ruiz and Tyson Fury? Dev.
Fury.
Cyril.
No one beats Fury.
Hayden.
Yeah, look, I think it's an obvious one. I think I'm not going to go against the grain just for the sake of it. You know, I mean, that's just
it is what it is, and I agree. So that's 4-0. Yeah. Dylan White wins. How does he go against Fury? Dev.
Better than Ruiz.
Does he win?
No, but I think he puts up a very good fight.
Cyril?
I think with Fury again over 12 rounds.
Hayden?
Yeah, Dillian White's punches chance, but if you're going to go pick favorites, I'd go Tyson Fury.
Yeah, Tyson Fury again, 4-0. And if Dylan White, sorry, let's go. Andy Ruiz fighting Anthony Joshua for a rubber match. Dev.
Andy Ruiz.
Let's say Andy Ruiz comes in shape this time. He's hungry and he comes in shape.
It depends on what the Eddie Reynoso factor is going to be. If Reynoso decides to allow him to train in his gym and be under his tutorship, I think Reynoso has built himself a very nice stable. I see that Frank Sanchez trains with him right now, so you'll have good sparring with Frank Sanchez. And I like Ruiz's chances when he's focused, when he's fit.
And he's not a celebrity.
But, you know, is he damaged goods now? It's such a difficult question to answer.
Yeah, I mean, Cyril, yeah, well, firstly, give me your prediction on Ruiz fighting Joshua for a rubber match.
I think I agree with Dave. I think we have to see where Ruiz is in terms of where he is. I mean, is he still as focused? I think a focused Andy Ruiz is a dangerous opponent for anybody. He's just, you know, in the second fight against Joshua, he just wasn't in it. I don't know how much training he got done. I don't think he got any training. And yeah, which is a pity because he's a really good fighter. So I'd love to see how focused he is and in what condition. I think his next fight will be telling. His next fight, whoever he fights against, will be telling.
And I also think, Hayden, it's kind of hard for us to gauge on where Andy Ruiz is now until he actually steps in the ring and fights again. I'm not even going to say redeem himself, but just literally fights to see what kind of fighters left in him.
Yeah, it's hard to tell if Andy Ruiz is going to be boxing for a long period of time as well after this, because we don't know. Has he achieved all that he was set to achieve in the boxing ring? We don't actually know as to his mental state, because the first thing he did with his money was, buy all the latest things, a big house, the cars. Obviously, he did all that for his family and obviously a lot of people around him. But is that sort of the luxurious life now where he's lost the hard work rates? I don't know.
And he also did a lot of eating.
Like he didn't before.
Yeah, like he ate the lasagna, and I think he deserved it. Hey, Hayden? Dev, you wanted to say something?
Why don't we, while we're talking about heavyweights, let's bring up Alexander Usyk and just see how far you can actually see him go as a heavyweight. Because we see these posts all the time, and it seems to be a lot of people thinking that Usyk hasn't got a chance at heavyweight against the top guys, whereas I tend to think he has more than a chance against the top heavyweight guys. Where do you guys see him going?
Well, firstly, he was going to fight Chisora, which I thought would have been kind of a good indication of where he was or where he wants to be in the heavyweight division. I still think that technically he's very sound, very talented, good ring generalship. But the thing is, will he punch hard enough in the heavyweight division? And that's my question. That's what I worry about. And I'm going to come under a little bit of fire here when I think that he still might be a little bit of an arm puncher. And why do I say that? Because his movements and his legs are very much part of his defensive mechanism, and he does it exceptionally well. But that comes at a price. And what I mean by coming at a price, if you're not going to sit on your shots and you're going to obviously use your legs as a defensive mechanism, that's going to take away elements of power. And that's what I've always felt and thought about him. Obviously, his knockout with Belly was crushing and it was a really good shot. But by and large, before that, he was a volume puncher, combination puncher. Even if you look back at his stoppage win over Thabisa Mchunu, it was the same kind of thing. So, can he put on 10 kilograms, or 20 kilograms and sit on his punches a little bit more? I think his style's ingrained in him. And if you look back to when he fought us in the Olympics and when he fought in the World Champs as an amateur, the style was still very much the same. Obviously, there's been changes and he's got experience now, but I think that's a factor. And if you can't keep the guys off you with one shot in the heavyweight division, you're asking for trouble. I mean, Fury did the unthinkable against Wilder, where he took the fight to him and he kept him off balance and he took his range and leverage away, and that's what you do against a puncher. But Tyson Fury came in at 256. I'm not sure that Usyk can get to 240, 235, and has some sort of firepower. 220, that's realistic. So, or 230 maybe. But there's some big heavyweights out there, and I'm not sure if his style is suited to be a heavyweight. Cyril, I don't know if you agree or disagree.
Yeah, I agree to a certain extent. I think you might see him fighting a bit differently. You probably throw less punches and probably move around a lot more as a heavyweight. Be more. Well, his defense is really good, and I think you'd see more of his defense than anything else in him as a heavyweight. So I think you'd probably be trying to just basically move around a little bit and avoid taking shots, avoid taking big shots.
Hayden, where would you? I mean, it's a stupid question, but obviously there's a place in the heavyweight division for him because it's Usyk, right? But realistically, let's talk about this. How does he fare against Joshua? And I think, funny enough, out of all the guys, I think he's got a great chance against Joshua purely based on styles. Hayden, your comments.
Yeah, stylistically, I think Joshua is the fight for him, isn't it? It's the fight that's where you can look to capture his titles and so forth. I think Usyk, we might find him in a lot of boring fights. The fact that he's going to be a heavy southpaw in the heavyweight division looking to avoid punches. I think he's your perfect cruiserweight. But in saying that, he had done all he had to do in that weight division and naturally has to challenge himself. So he's in the position now where you put him against big names. I don't even think Deontay Wilder would be a good idea for him because, like, if you put him in against Deontay, it's a heavyweight punch, eh? We don't know how he's going to receive, because Tony Bagliotto is not a heavyweight. He's a blown-up light heavyweight. So it's hard to say. I still think Joshua might win the fight just from physically being too big.
Just being imposing and strong. Dev, you wanted to add something in?
Yeah, we're talking about the weight of the guy. So he's 6'3", and then for the Chaz Witherspoon fight, he came in at 215 pounds, which is only 97 kilograms.
Yeah.
So Deontay Wilder is the only guy who comes in less than 100 that I've ever heard of, against a guy weighing 115 plus kilos. That's where the rubber meets the road on that kind of argument. So
let's just go back. Cyril, let me just say, Wilder comes in at just under 100, 220 pounds, but he's got that concussive power. I mean, some guys were saying and even suggesting, and they had claim, I guess, that he was was the hardest puncher in heavyweight history. Obviously, that notion's obviously discredited now based on who he was knocking out. But if you think back to Shavers and George Foreman and, Jack Dempsey, Marciano to a point, Marciano is probably the smallest heavyweight in boxing history in being champion, but he had that one-punch knockout power. Usyk having not had that one-punch power, that's obviously going to be at a disadvantage for him, surely.
Yeah, definitely. I think heavyweights, great heavyweights, most of them have that one-hand knockout power. For a while, we didn't think Tyson Fury had it, but, he shocked the world with what he did to Deontay Wilder. I think it's a definite disadvantage for Usyk. I think he'll be good as a heavyweight. I just don't see him beating the best heavyweight.
Dev, the fact that Eddie matched him against Chisora is probably, in my opinion, good matchmaking. A good after the Chaz Witherspoon fight. I mean, do you think that was the next good step in the right direction? Because I personally do.
Yeah, Chisora is a warrior. He's going to come. He's got that heavy-handedness of a real heavyweight about him. He's going to outweigh the guy. And he's also, more importantly, going to be Derek Delboy Chisora, not giving a fuck and going for it. So I think it's a high-risk fight, but I also think that it's a fight that could make Usyk look good, because against a guy like Chisora who doesn't offer much on the lateral, he's a guy who comes straight at you. If Usyk's game plan is to stay on his bike and box his way to victory, Chisora is the guy you can do it against.
And Hayden, let me ask you, since Jerry Chisora is not going to give a fuck going into that fight, who do you think wins and why?
I think Alexander Usyk, and I think it's going to come down to just the smarts of the ring. I don't think Usyk's going to engage, and I do think Dev's right. Chisora will come with everything. He's got nothing to lose in this fight. He's actually been built as a stepping stone in this fight, and he's obviously not. He's obviously disagreeing with that. I mean, that's how it's been built, isn't it? Everyone's looking at Usyk thinking, oh, he's going to be challenging for world titles one day, whereas they're not looking at Delboy in the same way. And Delboy is just like, well, let's be honest. He's one of the most popular boxers in England. He's bringing everyone there. He's not going to want to disappoint people. He's going to come with everything, but I do think that Alexander Usyk, too smart.
Cyril, your opinion on that fight?
I think Usyk is too smart, better talented, and I think, and I don't think Chisora also has the reach to actually give problems to Usyk, who will be moving around the ring a lot. So I think Usyk probably just keeps dominating rounds, winning rounds, and maybe even getting Chisora tired and giving up in the late round, possible.
Guys, this last weekend we saw a show in Nicaragua, and we also saw a show in the East, and very controversial, very hygienic, I have to add. The videos have been circulated on social media and the pictures as well. There have been 2 meters between each fan at the events, and the fighters were sprayed. I don't know what the spray was. One can only assume it was disinfectant. The referees wearing masks and the cornermen as well. The fighters were wearing masks up until the point where they got into the ring. And there were visual evidence, visual images of and videos of fighters being sprayed in the corner, which was bizarre. I don't want to say this is the way of the future. Obviously, it's going to happen. And what's weird is it's been happening in third world countries. So, Hayden, let me open it up to you. What's your opinion on what went down this last weekend?
Yeah, I can't wait to come down to your gym and you watch you catching pads next week. I'm just joking.
No, it's cool. And hold on, let's just watch our hygiene with our mouths. So that applies to you, Devin. So, yeah. Carry on, Hayden.
I was a bit taken by surprise. I don't know that they're doing it. I believe with the best intention. I don't know if it's a highly. I can't say for them in their position whether it's right or wrong because it's their rules, their country, third world, but as well low death tolls in those countries. I don't think it's got to a point where there's serious panic and so forth. So I don't know if it's them just living life as they usually would.
Cyril, your opinion on the show in Nicaragua and obviously what happened in the East?
Well, yeah, like Hayden says, they probably haven't had that many cases of infections yet. Well, hope for their sake, hopefully those infections don't climb enormously. But I think what was interesting is the whole setup in Nicaragua where they had fans like two or three seats between each fan. Fans sitting apart. So meaning that, if an arena can take 1,000 people, it means you can only get like half or a third of those people in there. And I think that might be something that we could see happening in the future everywhere, where even when things do open up here, where you can't allow as many people as you normally would into an arena. And I think that should be quite worrying for promoters, especially who get a big chunk of their income from gate takings.
Dev, obviously we heard the news this week that South Africa's lockdown is going to be lifted on certain levels. Sporting events and obviously boxing gyms will be level 1. Can you see something like this happening in South Africa?
Well, the thing about Nicaragua, I did a little bit of research, and at the time, Nicaragua only had 13 deaths and like 170 infections. It seems developing nations have not been as widespreadly damaged as the developed nations have in Europe. And I don't know what that comes down to. It seems to be the same kind of story here. Will we see that in South Africa? I don't think so. I think our government is acting with a European thought process towards a uniquely African scenario. I think that they don't want to be seen as the guys who are like that soccer league in Belarus that carried on going right through the COVID-19 epidemic breaking out in Europe. So I don't think we're going to see boxing here like that under those kind of conditions. But also remember, it makes boxing more expensive for the promoter. Who picks up the tag to disinfect an entire arena?
Correct. And I have to, obviously, on behalf of the Boxing Lockdown, praise our president, Cyril Ramaphosa. I think we're in a third world country, but he's acting like a first world president. And, the comments on social media about the leadership of our president has been a breath of fresh air. It really, really has. And I think South Africans, we're taking COVID-19 very seriously. So, and I have to concur with you, Deb. I can't see that kind of scenario happening here in South Africa. I think being on level 1, I think we're in for a long ride. But I think when things do resume, I think we will be able to flourish again. Cyril, I think Hayden and Dev, I think this has been, before I go, Dev, what happened to your eye? We seeing a touch of a shiner there, bro. What happened? You've been sparring with your cats or sparring with Nicole? And thank you, Nicole, for keeping your man in shape. I think that's the wrap for tonight, guys. I think, Dev, let me get your last parting shot for the show.
So I love ripping off MMA fighters who slip in the bathroom on their way to the weigh-in and often don't make the fight. Bathrooms are dangerous places, yo. That's exactly what happened. And that's the story, and I'm sticking to it.
Right, and viva to that. Cyril, your last parting shot for the show on a hygienic note.
Let's keep washing those hands. Stay clean.
Hayden, you look tired. I know you've been doing a lot of boxing research and watching old fights and stuff. We've been speaking a lot between the shows and stuff. What's your last parting shot?
Hashtag.
Hashtag.
Yeah, last parting shots. Jeez, keep safe. That's about it.
Keep safe. Yeah, you look tired, bro. Get some sleep. Gentlemen, it's been great chatting boxing, heavyweight division, keeping safe during COVID-19. We'll see you again soon. To the viewers, thanks for tuning into the Boxing Lockdown powered by SA Boxing Talk. We will see you again soon.